Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to our nerdiest thing. Today, we're live with very special guest, Megan Montgomery. Megan is a multi award winning author of steamy, smart, character driven romance. Her debut novel, well, that was awkward, described as a big, juicy bite of Chesapeake Bay culture, was inspired by her homesickness for Southern Maryland. She now lives among the cornfields of Illinois with her family, but don't ever mistake her for a Midwesterner. A goth at heart since age 12, she loves the color black, Mozart's Requiem, and the history of death and burial rites. When she's not writing, reading, or cooking dinners her son won't eat, you'll find her working at the library or cackling over a cauldron during a full moon. Her books have received the B.R.A.G Medallion Best Indie Book Award for Romance, the Indie Reader Discovery Award for Chick Lit, the Rudy Award for Contemporary Romance, and were finalists in the Page Turner Book and Screenplay Awards. But she's most thrilled that when she makes personal connections with readers. Welcome to the podcast, Megan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
I
Mindy
I
loves
feel
you
like
and your books. So,
yes, I feel like we were like separated at birth or something because I also grew up a goth girl. I know you can't really tell from my like retro colorful craft room, but I love the color black. I also work in a library. The only difference is I do not write and I'm not a good author. So
Do you write
but I
anything
want
though?
to do what?
Do you write anything?
Not really.
Yeah.
No, I
you create
read
in
a
other
lot
ways,
though.
Mindy.
I love readers. I think readers who have like an appreciate not an appreciation, but readers who are interested in process are, I think, some of the coolest people. And yeah, I just I have a lot of respect for that.
Well,
Well,
we have a
we
lot of
love that
respect for the
here.
process.
Yeah. But I do wanna start out with a non-writing reading question. I have to ask about the medicinal herb garden that you used to volunteer with. Are
Mhm.
we talking about, like, Outlander Claire Fraser medicinal herbs or Cheech and Chong medicinal herbs?
Yes, the former Outlander herbs. So, uh, I have a tendency to like do things that nobody else wants to do, and I won't say this is pre-Outlander by any means, but when I moved to Illinois, like Cornfield, Illinois, not near Chicago. Like nothing is cool here. Um,
Except for you.
ugh.
Yeah.
And I'm such a misfit. It's kind of funny to me. Um, but when I moved here, I it's just a really good place to grow things. We have a really long growing season, and the weather, even through summer, like I hate the heat, but even in summer, it's mild generally. And I started, I don't know what I was reading, but no, actually, I was writing a book. It was my first book. It was going to be a historical fiction about a midwife's apprentice. Um, and it was a colonial era. So I thought, well, I mean, everyone had a kitchen garden and everyone had a medicinal garden in the colonial era, and I need to know more about, I mean, these women spent their lives in their gardens. I would need to know more about this. So in order, I'm like a huge research nerd. Like I'm obsessive about research. No matter what the book is, it's like it's ridiculous. So I decided not only am I going to like read some old herbals from the colonial era, I'm just going to like totally throw myself in the world of medicinal herbs, and I joined the CU the Champaign-Urbana Herb Society, and then I started gardening at the herb garden there, which is sort of like this quadrant of all different types of herbs, like and I don't mean herbs like basil. I mean any plant that has any sort of use. So we have like a tea garden, and we have a dye garden, and we have the
Oh.
medicinal herb garden. And so we did all of that. And yeah, and so I learned how to do all of this, all the herb gardening, and make medicines from plants. And I learned like really cool niche stuff, like what people used for abortifacients in the colonial era, what people use, and an abortifacient is, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like, but people used them to, as a DNC, essentially, an herbal DNC after they would miscarry. And it gave me an appreciation for plants and how potent they are. And they say like what it, the dose makes the poison, and that's true. You can die from eating green potatoes. You can die from eating too much lettuce. Like some of these plants that we encounter every day have poisonous value. Some only it takes a tiny bit, and some it takes a whole lot, but it shows that plants are effective. Um, and I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
That
It
is so
is.
fascinating. I love how you immerse yourself in that because I actually am I'm a theater major.
Yeah,
Well, I was, not now.
I was
And
too once upon a time.
yay, see, I told you separated at birth.
Yes.
But it's like that whole the method where you and it's escaping me right now because apparently I have menopause brain, but the method where you like really get into the character and you really like research and really like get into it. Um
Yeah.
so that's kind of like that, but for writing. That's really cool.
You
So
have no idea. You don't like how much like theater I incorporate in when I write. Yeah.
I think that may be why I read that your books resonate with me so much. Maybe I don't
Really?
know. It's like I don't know. I feel like it's something that if I did write, maybe I would write. Like it's stuff that I'm interested in that I would be interested in researching and doing that with.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's talk a little bit about your books. Let's talk about Well, That Was Awkward, your debut novel.
Mhm.
What can readers expect from that, and where did your inspiration for that book come from?
So that book was that came on the heels of the midwife historical fiction that I did not do anything with. So you won't find that published anywhere.
I
But I
was about
wrote
to ask that
it.
question actually.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't do anything with it, and it was just my first book, and it was practice writing a book. It told me that I could actually write 90,000 words of something, and that is what like that was the one thing that I could finish with ADHD that was untreated for most of my life. And um so Awkward came on the heels of that book. I have this tendency to want to do multiple, like take one thing and go in multiple directions, and that's what it was. So it was set in the same exact place as as my historical fiction. It was set in Maryland. It was actually in my hometown. So I thought, well, this would also like this is an island that's a small town in the middle of the Chesapeake. Well, it's where the Chesapeake Bay and the Patuxent River meet up. There's a Navy base where they train test pilots on one side, and then the island itself is just this. It's a huge like yacht community with antique stores and art galleries, but the rest of the county and the counties surrounding it are what when I lived there completely podunk. And it was always this like weird niche of fancy yacht people, Navy boys, and um, an enclave of artists and Hicks. And I thought this is a great place to set a rom-com. And so that's what I did. And I had this character, Emerson, who like I kind of played the opposites. Talking about theater, I think I use a lot of Meisner in my writing. Like he's all about playing the opposites, and like what you think you would find, you actually find something that's totally unexpected. And I really like I like doing the unexpected. I think and it's not that I consciously do it, it's just what my brain does. I gloss over the first three sort of obvious options and I leap to the 10th option that is totally weird and out there. And so yeah, so my protagonist in this small town rom-com was like a tattooed metalhead antiques restorer who has a master's in art history, and she's like grungy, like, and the first time the MMC meets her, he mistakes her for a homeless woman and gives her $5 because she looks so homeless. Like, and it's
Yeah.
because she spends all of her time, she's real grumpy too. So, but she spends all of her time, or she thinks she's grumpy is the thing about her. Like she spends all of her time caring for her community, and that she has no time to care for herself. But that's not something you associate with someone who looks like that, like an alt girl. And that's not something, I don't know, it's just very opposite. So, so yeah, his thing is like he's a test, a fighter, a test pilot instructor of like people who used to fly F-35s, and now they're going to go and test pilot F-35s in California. Like the Nav Air Naval Base that's there is where you learn to like not just fly the fighter jets, but learn to be the first person who flies them so that you can tell the manufacturer what's wrong with them. So you have to be
Oh,
like, it's like doing brain surgery and like playing in the NFL at the same time. You need so much intelligence, and you need so much, it's a physical job to fly these jets. So I thought, well, that's the perfect romance hero. Like he's smart and he's hot and like he has to have all of these qualities built in because that's his job. So like I'm going to pair them together, and he's the clean cut sunshine guy, although he's not, too sunshine, and she's the grumpy girl. And yeah, so so that's it. And it won a bunch of awards, and I was really happy about that. I was sort of like naive, like I don't know, I didn't think too hard about just, telling the story I want to tell. And I had no marketing plan. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna put this out here for a low cost, and yeah, it did well, I think,
that's
for
always the best kind of surprise.
yeah.
Yeah. Did
I'm
you
gonna
visit
throw a
this?
random question at you. Are you an Aquarius by any chance?
No.
Okay.
Um,
Because
I
you have so many qualities of an Aquarius, talking about like going like skipping the nine options and going with the 10th. Like that's totally me, and I am also an Aquarius.
Thank you. I consider that a huge
That's high
uh
praise.
yes, that is high praise. I love Aquarius's Aquarii. I think that's the coolest. My son's an Aquarius. Yeah, no, I'm a Pisces, and I don't know.
I don't
Anything
know a
about
whole
any
lot
of
about
that.
Pisces. Do what?
I don't know anything about any of that. Can I ask real quick, just thinking about not not being, I guess what I was hearing you say, not being self-conscious about the story that you wanted to tell, even if you were making choices that weren't like the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Did you feel a different level of nervousness or self-consciousness writing that story compared to releasing that story? Did it still feel very like, well, I told the story I wanted to tell and I felt like I stayed true to myself, so whatever happens happens? Or was there a sudden kind of, oh, people are going to read this, and what if people don't like it? Like, what was that like, switching from writing that first book to releasing it and having people actually read it?
I it was I didn't have an issue. I sort of don't have imposter syndrome.
That's great.
Um And well, I I follow this one like writing guru, Becca Syme, who runs the Better Faster Academy, and she says that only imposters don't get imposter syndrome, so then I feel like an imposter. Um, but I really don't. I mean, I'm sure we all read books that are not that great. And I feel like even if I put out one of those books that's not that great, and that book is not that great, Like I think none of my books are that great, but I still deserve to tell the story. I deserve to be there because like all of us do.
Yeah.
I don't see the issue. I don't know. I think I don't ever hear this, so I think it's worth talking about in case anyone else sort of feels this way and feels bad that they feel like they actually have a seat at the table. But I feel like I have a seat at the table, and maybe people don't want me there. I know for sure people don't want me there all the time, and I'm okay with that. It hurts sometimes, and it like, I mean, all the time when I like now when I have expectations on a book release and then the book doesn't like match those expectations, it's
Yeah.
like it's painful because I do this work for it to be read, and when it's not read, it like it it's sad. It's
Well, it's
not.
like it's not fulfilling its purpose.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't write for the market, but I do write for the reader that needs to read that book. And sometimes it's really hard to reach that reader. And maybe there were only 100 readers for that book, and that's fine. But no, releasing the book, I always think this is going to be for somebody somewhere. Um because uh what is the there's a there's an idiom about specificity. There's universality in the specificity. And so I write these highly, and I don't do this with any intention, but I write very specific things. And I think that's partly um what makes them really like vibe with people. And not everybody, but I think my books they hit a spot that's lacking for some readers.
What
Um
I love, and I would say definitely it's like a niche that you have, but also your writing is so relatable that it does, even if you're not into the niche, you can still find something in your book to relate to and to learn about. And that's what I mean, I fell in love when I read Morgue to Love, which is
mhm.
your Last Responders series. Um, that I just fell in love with that. I thought it was so informative without being like I was reading a textbook.
Yeah.
And I laughed and I cried with these characters and I felt like, I really got to know them. So, I mean, I see what you're saying where you're very niche, but also, like, once you grab people and once it starts like, I don't think that matters anymore because you write these great characters. So, that's my take on it, at least.
That's awesome. That's what I hope for. That's my ultimate goal is to sort of reach everybody
Yeah.
um in these weird ways. Because yeah, it doesn't I don't intend for a character who y- like chops up dead bodies for a living, as she says. She's an autopsy pathologist. So she's a doctor and she does the autopsies for not hospitals, but for the county. Um so I don't really intend for most people to identify with that aspect of her life, but maybe the autism aspect of her life, and maybe the fact that her mother doesn't see her for who she is identifiable, or
Exactly.
um yeah, or it's like it's a surprise pregnancy and she keeps the baby out of spite because nobody thinks she can do it. So I don't know. That resonated with me, and that's why I put that in there because when I was pregnant, people are like, "Are you sure?" And and I was like, well, I'm going to show them that you don't have to be this particular type of parent. You don't have to like you don't have it's not like parenthood is this one checklist. You can have several different there's a lot of different types of parents. And just because maybe you see that type more in men than women doesn't mean that I can't also be a good parent. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
um but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but that's okay.
That's okay. I do that all the time. Um, one thing about the Last Responders series, and you've touched on this, it's a lot deals a lot with death and the aftermath of that, and in Morgue de Love, she is an, autopsy specialist. Your books seem to be heavily inspired or influenced by your fascination with death and burial rites. So tell us how that fascination started for you.
I honestly think my grandmother had a hand in it when I was young. I think my grandma was like um, a goth girl before that was a thing. And she used to she was sort of hands off. It's hard to describe her. We didn't have a extremely close relationship when I lived with her for a while. I lived with all of my grandparents. And she would read poetry or recite poetry like the Highwaymen, and she was very morbid. She really liked cemeteries. We used to visit
Me
them a
too.
lot. And I think that was part of my family culture. I think we all liked Halloween before Halloween was like a big thing that a lot of people liked. Now it's like it's pretty common.
Yeah.
But this was in the 80s and they liked it all before. And I think so I think she made it okay for me to like these dark and morbid and sort of depressing things and um and find the enjoyment of it, not because you're you know you you're dealing with something and they help you overcome, but I think there's enjoyment in the darkness that you can find. And so I think that was one of the first things. The second thing, I just really love the human body and the like body systems. And I thought when I when I went to write my first book, I was sort of a bored stay-at-home mom and it just wasn't working for me. And I thought I need to do something else. So I'm either going to write a book or take prereqs to go to med school. Um, because I always wanted to be a surgeon and I did a stint in midwifery school and that just wasn't like it wasn't for me. It's like it's too hands-on. It's too like I mean midwife means with women and I have more of like not a very good bedside manner. Nobody would have wanted me for their midwife.
You're like, "Hey, let's go hang out at the cemetery."
Yeah, yeah. Um,
What's a
so,
grave birth instead of a home birth?
oh, that would be fun. I just saw a cemetery wedding yesterday. I was very jealous.
That's so cool. My kids hate it when we would go like, we went to Charleston one year, and I was like, "Let's go to all the cemeteries," and they're like, "Mom,
Yeah.
no, that's ridiculous." I'm like, "But it's not."
Megan,
Um,
here's kind of a random question, just because this is totally up your alley. Have you read the book Stiff by Mary Roach?
yes,
Okay.
she's one of my influences, like just even as a writer. Um, I loved that book. Actually, my friend, my book is signed by Dave Coulier. My book stiff because my friend bought it for me in an airport where she ran into Dave Coulier and got his autograph. So I always like to like
That's
mention
hilarious.
that my copy of Stiff is autographed but not by the author.
My Uncle Joey,
Yes.
one of the like least morbid, macabre
I know.
characters. That's so great. Now that book was recently recommended to me and I started listening to the audiobook. But I was telling Deb and Mindy, I can only listen like a little bit at a time because I pretty much only listen to audiobooks when I'm driving, and that book makes me kind of queasy. So I can't listen to it while I'm
Yeah,
driving.
that's understandable.
But it's really
Um,
good. It's really interesting and informational.
it is. I love her writing. I think I think a lot of people since then who have written, death books don't do, don't give it the respect and don't give the dead the respect that Mary Roach does. And that's what I really love about her writing. It's funny and subversive and dry and witty, but at the heart, she she's not somebody who's just there to like play mortician or
Mhm.
play researcher. She has a deep respect for the humanity of that's still innate in a dead body. And that's what I try to bring in my books, because I respect that a lot. Um, and yeah, so that Stiff is a huge influence on me just in my writing in general. Like it's like with the humor, because there's always an element of dry humor to my books, even the serious ones. Um, and I think a lot of that comes from Mary Roach. Uh, yeah.
Can I ask before we move into our speed round, the Last Responders series, are they interconnected standalones, or do you must start with book one and continue through the series? How does that work?
Okay. So my goal was for them to be complete standalones. It is about a trio of women who are best friends. So the three female protagonists were always supposed to be in each other's books. Um, However, when I wrote them, I can't write to vibes. Like I can't pre-decide anything when I write a book. It's just I write the book based on the character's voice, and it turns out to be whatever that character needs at the moment. And so the first one, Morgue to Love, is so it takes place. It's most of them are set in the Smythe family funeral home. So the autopsy pathologist character Sula she grows up in a funeral home. So not only is she now involved in death care, she has always been involved in death care. Her dad has always given her little tasks to do, like body pickups, and she's always helped out with the funeral home. Her father and mother are both funeral directors and morticians. And her brother and best friend now own the funeral home together. So her whole life is surrounded by death in all its forms. Her brother is a Greek Orthodox priest. He's the protagonist of book three. So it is this family. It's the Smythe family. So there's a saga element to it. And there is a through line that involves the family that's outside the romance, that ties everything together. Um, you can pick and choose one to read. If you're going to read them all, I would start with book one, but a lot of people really vibe with book three because book three has because they have different vibes. Book
Right.
one is lighter and it has a drier humor, but humor is sort of at the base. And there is a poignancy, especially in the male main character. Um, and and then book two is sort of about men's mental health and the things we don't talk about and caregiver burnout and burnout in general and uh and then book three is about the characters dealing with grief and loss and shame and overcoming that. So I think book three is the heaviest. But um yeah, so you really can pick and choose like what's your vibe. And I try to in the blurbs sort of hint at the underlying vibe. And the characters are all the same and the characters sort of continue their growth throughout each other's books as well because I don't like a I don't like an easy bow that you can tie onto the end of your books where everything is hunky dory at the end. I like to think that my characters are still living and continuing to grow in their maturity after the book is over because these characters are have been so important to me in my life that I don't like to just end them. I like to like feel that they have also something. They're not completely done at the end of the books. They have some growth to do. Um, so yeah, you can totally pick and choose. Like if you just want to read like a really sexy story set in New Orleans, you can read
I'm
Undertaking.
listening.
Or if you want to read like if you want to read a nuanced heavy book about grief, you can read book three with like some like really erotic scenes. And if you want to read like the lighter, like dry humor, then you can read book one. And yeah. So
Something
it
for everybody.
depends. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to our nerdy and dirty speed round. So we've got just some random questions for listeners to get to know you a little bit outside of being an author. So no wrong answers, just whatever pops into your head. So are you
Okay.
ready, Megan?
I think so.
Not hard questions, I promise. Well, I don't think they're hard questions. So
My
you'll have
brain
to tell
is
me.
slow.
So first one, what is your favorite task to complete at the library?
Um, I I go there and I really like to nerd out and just check in books. It's like the boringest thing, but I really like to see what's been checked out and what's coming back in. I like to clean them. I like to care for them and put new stickers on the spines. And I really like that. Although I don't know. I really like working at the library a lot more than I thought I would because I
Yeah,
went from being a full-time author and I realized like this is not working for me anymore. Like I need more interaction with people. And so I work a few hours a week at the library and it's been so nice. And I have these people who have like just begun their reading journey and I
yeah,
get to sort of like I've been able to guide certain people through and it's been like it's cool. It's like, okay, start here. This is your reading 101. Let's try this and see what you like from that. And then we'll go like maybe do a deeper cut and then we'll do like the even deeper. And that's really fun too.
yeah.
So I
That's
think
really
it's
cool.
both.
I would love I would love all those same things if I worked at a library too.
I do
Yeah.
too, and if it makes you feel better, my favorite thing is putting books back on the shelves where they're supposed to go and keeping them organized.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
also good.
I do
Yeah.
that at my kids' elementary school. Like everything goes back in its proper place.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, next question. What is your favorite fact that you have discovered about burial rites?
Well, so when I wrote my funeral director book, I tried to keep it sort of mundane at times because I ended up befriending, like, talk about research again. I ended up befriending so many funeral directors, morticians, um, like trade embalmers, the people who just do like hardcore embalming and they specialize in really hard cases and they go from funeral home to funeral home. And I befriended these people and they sort of came out of the woodwork to help me with my research. But what I discovered is a lot of their job is like waiting around, like harassing hospitals and doctors for death certificates, typing things on like old typewriters. And I was like, I've got to, like, it wouldn't be fair if it was just embalming bodies. Like, I can't just write about that. Like, I've got to put the mundane, boring stuff in. So I have some of that. And but then I did come across I probably am not saying this right, but there's a Japanese ceremony of kotsuage and it's my favorite thing. It sort of gives me chills. And so in I think it's Shinto culture or the Shinto religion, the burial rite or the death rite is they do cremations and then the family is there the whole time. So the body goes in, they watch the body go into the cremation retort and then they can leave because it does take hours. They come back and they watch the when the body is cremated, it's bone. It's not complete, it's not like ash like we think. So they pull out the sliding thing and it's pieces of brittle bone that they're going to then put in the cremulator, which is like a blender for bones. And that's what you get back when you get ashes. But during a kotsuage, the family lines up along the sides of the gurney, we'll say. And then one by one, they start with these sort of oversized chopsticks and they pick up a piece of bone and they pass it to the next person and the next person and the next person. So the family actually they place the bones feet to head up in the box and it's every member of the family has touched every bone at that point because they've passed it down. And I just think that's so beautiful. And the reason I wanted to write these books is not for the creepiness. It's not so I can, like, live in my morbid world. It's because we don't, when we eliminate these rites, we're also eliminating our moment to grieve. And I think when we have ceremony like this, it sort of kickstarts the grief process. And we're able to come through grief in in a healthier way. I think by shoving everything, by burying everything essentially, and outsourcing all of death care, um, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. And I don't think we're equipped anymore. I mean, we don't lie our table, or we don't lie our dead bodies out on the dining room table for all of our loved ones to come visit after the death. But and we don't have the things to wash the body, but sometimes your funeral home will let you help with that. Um, with certain aspects like dressing and bathing and styling hair. And I think those things, and I've seen it in person as well, where it just really allows you to work through your grief, because I think you need to spend time with the dead in order for your brain to sort of understand what is going on, and then you can move on.
Beautiful ceremony of
It is
closure,
beautiful.
really. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. The next question, this isn't a great transition into this, but next question. Which of your characters do you relate to the most?
Uh, when I wrote Sula, I thought it was her.
Mm,
I think there's a little bit of me in all of them, which I think a lot of writers will say.
yeah.
I think actually George is the character that I identify with most. He is my male protagonist in Undertaking Love, and he's a mortician, and um he's in burnout. And on the outside, I don't really have anything in common with him, but I I relate to how he processes things.
Mm, yeah.
And yeah, but I don't know. I think my husband would tell you otherwise.
I'm sure this answer will changes from day to day too, right? Like,
It does. It
yeah,
does. Yeah,
I've heard that.
there's certain characters who I don't like. Sula was really hard for me to write at first because I didn't want to give her any of my characteristics. Like I really wanted to keep myself out because I didn't think that was professional. And then I sort of like recognized that it's just not true.
Mm,
There can be even in things that have nothing to do with us, like we can um I don't know, my Greek Orthodox priest has a lot of my like hang-ups and like dogmatic uh ideas about his own religion. And I think, like, I mean, I have nothing in common with the Greek Orthodox. I am Greek Orthodox, but I'm not like a priest. I'm not a man. I don't have any of
sure.
the same like compulsions that he has. And but I think it, I don't know, that's just it makes it that's what makes it relatable, is to put things, even just a passing thought that I've had, to
Yeah.
give that to a character. I think that makes them
Yeah.
mm, relatable.
You're imparting a little piece of yourself, even if it's just a tiny
Yeah.
little thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not which, what was your favorite book as a child?
Uh, Little Women, I think.
That was a good one.
I have to say Little Women as an older child. I went through, I was like only allowed to read the classics. Um, I had a really crap library where I grew up. The children's section was just awful. Um, and like we didn't have a lot of books. Like I got the
Yeah.
classics and I sort of like was, shoved into that box. And I went through Black Beauty and I went through The Secret Garden. Loved The Secret Garden. I really identified with Mary. And I sort of like just went, up and up and up through the girly classics. And so then I got to Little Women and like I laugh now because when I opened my copy that I read when I was 12, the book just falls open to where Teddy proposes to Joe.
Oh.
So I read that over and over and over.
Oh.
And then I read after that I read Jane Eyre and
Mm.
the same thing. Like it falls open to that part where it's like that weird proposal when Rochester is talking about how he's marrying Blanche and all of a sudden it's not Blanche anymore, it's Jane. And but I read that over and over and over again and I was just like I think I was just dying for romance.
Yeah.
And I really wish I was one of those kids who like, oh, I found my grandmother's Harlequin novels under her bed when I was 12. Like I would have died for that. I didn't start reading romance until 2018. And I didn't know it
Same.
existed.
Same here, unless you count Sweet Valley Twins. That was as close
Well,
as I got.
yeah, well, mine was like Fear Street, the B plots of
Yeah.
Fear Street.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, I was so like desperate for romance that I would just take it anywhere I could find it and if that wasn't working, I would just rewrite the story in my head until it did.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm mad that I was like told this lie that romance I actually wasn't, I don't know, that romance is a lesser genre and I don't
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
really try to combat that at the library.
We combat
Yeah,
that
you
on our
feel
podcast.
cheated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next question. What is your favorite thing to do on a day off?
Right.
That's not a day off, really.
No, it's not, but that's where like that's how I like to spend my birthdays. That's how I like to spend Mother's Day. I like just like leave me alone so that I can write whatever it is because I don't know. Usually I'm so deep into like solving this puzzle of the next book that
Yeah.
that I just like I won't be happy until I solve it.
Like a
Um
brain itch.
yeah. But I love to visit like I love to visit historic places, like historic homes and take tours. Like I'm a history nerd. I majored in history and but I really like the material culture of it. So any museum, any time I can learn, that's what I like to do.
I think that's great. I love that. If you could wake up tomorrow as one of your characters from any book, who would you choose to be?
Chris, because he has millions of dollars.
Perfect. And
He's
last,
he's not a billionaire because he gives his money away, but he would
oh,
be a
well, that's
billionaire if
nice.
he didn't give his money away. He's my
Yeah,
non-billionaire billionaire character.
I love the
Love
generosity. I love that. And then last question in the speed round. What is bringing you the most joy in life right now?
Ah. Well, my family always brings me joy. It's they like remind me that I'm human and I have a tendency to forget that sometimes that I'm not just, productive writing machine.
Mm, yeah.
Or rather like in productive writing machine, unproductive writing machine, which has been the case lately. Um so yeah, I don't know. I've been really boring for the past few years, and the only thing I really do is write and read. And so I think yeah,
That
I have to
sounds
say.
delightful, honestly.
Yeah, I was
It
gonna say
doesn't
nothing
sound
wrong with
boring.
that.
Well, well it is, but it's boring to say like reading. Okay, so here's another thing. I have discovered I'm writing historical romance now, but it's 20th century historical. So it's a little bit odd and it's a I think it's a great blend between contemporary and historical because things are happening that like I think appeal to both sets of readers. And Uh, but I've been like doing deep dives into all the historical romance that I missed since I didn't find romance when I was 12 or 18 or even 30. I um so I'm now like doing all these historical romance backlists. So I'm reading Loretta Chase and I'm reading Elizabeth Hoyt, and I just like they're so brilliant. Like Elizabeth Hoyt, the way she plots is I don't understand how you can pack a book so full of your characters doing these amazing things. Like it's an external plot heavy book, and I don't write external plot heavy books, but they're like I'm in awe of how she can do that, but also pack them so that every action the character performs is driven by their internal motivation. And I think it's perfect. Like I don't think there is a more perfect writer who accomplishes that. And then Judith Ivory is just like this, she takes prose in such unusual places, and that like it gives me goosebumps to read her lines sometimes because of the way that she plays with language. So yeah, that's bringing me joy.
I love that.
Love
So
that.
before we wrap things up, where can readers best connect with you? Is it through social media or a newsletter or maybe both?
Yeah, both. I have a newsletter. I have not been good about sending newsletters. So if you want to DM me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. I'll probably follow you back if you have like, if you're a bookish account, I follow you back. If you have anything posted, I usually follow you back because I feel like compelled to. But then, like DM me. I'm on Threads. I'm on a lot of the places. And but yeah, you can sign up for my newsletter and ideally be the first to know, although you'll probably be the last to know if I'm being honest.
We've heard that from several authors, just so you
Yeah.
know. A lot of you guys are in the same boat with the newsletter. Like, I mean, sign up for it, I guess, but
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot.
We're supposed to say that because,
Yeah,
we don't own social media, but we do
for
own our
sure.
newsletter list and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. But yeah, I have friends that send out amazing newsletters, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not doing that.
That's great for them.
Yeah,
So, Megan, where can we purchase your books?
I'm in KU. I'm on Amazon. You can order most of my books through any independent bookstore or Barnes and Noble. Any bookstore should like you should be able to order it. So yeah, but if you want
I
to,
need to give a shout out
yeah.
to your Pulp Fiction covers. They are amazing for the Last Responder series. God, they're the most beautiful covers. It's like totally what drew me in first. Like, come for the cover, but stay for the awesome writing.
I love hearing that because, I collect Pulp Fiction novels from the 60s, and I love detective noir and I love film noir, and I feel like they're all sort of linked in. And yeah, I'd always wanted to do that. That was my goal. And I
They're
like
gorgeous.
the books were like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And I searched high and low for an artist who could paint in that old oil painting style. And I found Chris Madden, and he's amazing. And he ended up like talking me through some plot points because he is like a professor of creative writing. So
That's so cool.
yeah. Yeah, so thank you. I'm really glad you enjoy
Yeah, they're
them.
beautiful.
Do you have any upcoming events or signings, maybe bookish conventions that you are going to be attending in
Yeah,
2025 or even into
yeah.
2026?
I'll be at Romance on the River, Writers on the River in Peoria, Illinois in June summer. June, June or July. I forgot. I think it's July. And I will be at Romance Con in Milwaukee in September. And yeah, that's all I'm doing. I don't do a whole lot of events.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I think that's the way to do it. Stay home and read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. And so to finish us out, this is our nerdiest thing. We always finish our episodes sharing what our nerdiest thing of the week is. And it is usually book related because that's what we talk about, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a deep dive that you're doing for something you're working on. It could be something that you just got really excited about. For example, today my nerdiest thing is your microphone because you sound amazing.
Oh,
it's
thank you.
it is like so crisp and clear, and I've been like drooling over this microphone the entire interview. So that's an example of a nerdiest thing. But Megan, we would love to know what your nerdiest thing of the week is.
Oh my gosh. So I'm writing a book that's set during World War II. And so my nerdiest thing is like Winston Churchill's war cabinet. And the years leading up to World War II, it's like it's super nerdy and it's like it's to the point where like I can't include any of this stuff in the book, but like now it's just stuck in my brain. And
Now it's
so
personal.
yeah. Yeah. So between that and like I've been listening to a lot of BBC podcasts and I've just been living in like England in 1939. So yeah, that's all I'm like geeking out on. And like I'm listening to a lot of Glenn Miller and it's like you don't understand though how sexy Little Brown Jug is. And
Hear
It's
me out.
making your little history major heart happy.
it is. It is. Yep.
That's a perfect nerdiest thing of the week. That's great. Well, Megan, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. It's been so interesting to talk to you and lovely to sort of meet you face to face.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you and I will be in the same time, same place at some point, and we can meet for real and face to face. But Mindy just has such high praise for your writing. It's been such a joy to talk to you and get to know you a little bit. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really fun.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it was great
was.
to meet you.
Nice meeting you both.